I'm going to go ahead and get started. There we go. All right, we are recording. Um, a couple of housekeeping things. We are recording today, just so you know. And then if you have questions, we do have a lot of content to get through. I'm going to try to finish up my portion really quickly. I can talk a lot. I'm going to try to keep it to a minimum, but if you can keep your questions till the end, feel free to drop questions in the chat. And we have a few people from ALS TDI on that who may be able to answer that, but I'm really happy to stay, pretty much as long as you want until I have to go pick up the kids to answer questions afterwards. But really excited to have you here and thank you so much for being here today. All right, so who am I and why does it matter? My name is Nadia Sethi. I'm the Director of Community Outreach and Engagement at ALS TDI. I lost my husband to a fast progressing form of genetic ALS in 2020. And you can see pictures of us here while we were going through ALS with him. I was traveling around with him quite a bit, and that's that first picture there. And then we had a concert on our driveway for him, and that's the second picture there. And you can see his neck pillow that he used to travel with. That kind of became his accessory. And then that's the kids and me with offensive hats. About a month after we lost him, we were pretty angry. But my kids have a chance of carrying the genetic mutation that took their father from them. And that is a big part of why I'm in the community today. And why does it matter? Well, I think today's discussion is all about being involved in research and how do we change research and how do we make things go faster. And I'm no different than any of you. We're all the same here. And to me, the Haywood family, the more I learned about them, and this is the family that started ALS TDI. When I started working here, the more I learned about this family, the more I realized what the parallels are. I went in head over heels to try to do whatever I could to make things go faster for ALS research. And their way of tackling this 20 plus years ago was to create they had the audacity to create an institute that would do all kinds of research for ALS, right? Their goal was to also find drugs for ALS. And they had, the foresight and the thoughts to put this place together that brings us all together here today. And so we are all the same. They were the same as me, and we're all the same as you. We all want to fix ALS in some way. And so that's really the topic of our discussion here today. So how would you solve ALS? I'm going to throw things back on you today. We're going to give you some ideas, but there isn't, a puppet master who's in charge of all of ALS who will tell you that if you just do these three things, we're going to have a cure next year. It is really up to us to take the initiative to find the things that we want to do to change ALS, right? And that might be different depending on what your interests are, what your skill sets are, what your job was or is in life, and how you want to change this disease. So we're going to give you some ideas today. We're going to talk about different initiatives that you can be involved in. We're also going to talk a little bit about ALS TDI. And I'm hoping that will help you figure out some ways that you can be involved. And I'm here to support, I'm here to guide. If, my email address was up there, I'll put it again in chat. But whatever questions you have, I'm here for you to help you and to guide you, but, and reach out. But the answers ultimately are all going to be in the science. We can approve many drugs, right? But if the science isn't there to make those drugs actually work for ALS, then we're lost. So you guys are all here today because you want to learn how to support the science, and I'm really grateful for that. All right, so I'm having issues with my Zoom. All right, so how would you solve ALS? Well, what if we just approved everything? I actually had this argument with somebody on Facebook this morning. If we approved everything, how would we know that it all worked, right? So it might be better to run a big experiment in a lot of people to understand if that drug works. But how do we know which people to select for that big experiment? Oh, maybe we should run a smaller one and maybe measure some things in their blood or in their spinal fluid that might give us some clues on who to put in that bigger trial. But how do we know if a drug is safe? Well, we should probably even start with a smaller trial so that we can understand the safety of a drug and maybe understand a little bit about how the drug is being broken down in somebody's body. But how do we know that it's even safe to try in humans? Well, we need to do trials probably in some bigger animals that have a lot of similarities to humans so that we know we're not going to cause trouble when that drug goes into a person. And how do we know which drug to try in those bigger animals? Well, we might want to find the one single drug that shows the most promise in smaller animals because they're easier to manage, it's less costly. We can do experiments on a bigger scale to try to understand what drugs are actually maybe changing the course of ALS in these animals. And in order to get that one drug, we're probably going to have to look at several that are similar to find that one that was the best. And we might do that in cell models. Again, we might do some of that in animal models. And before we do any of that, we're going to have to figure out a pathway that might be involved in ALS that we can change with those drugs. So here you have it. This is everything that we need in order to get a new treatment for ALS. So this is how you should solve ALS, right? This is everything that you guys should do. And this is what the Haywood family set out to do. Well, this is kind of impossible for any single person or organization to take on all on their own. At ALS TDI, we're focused on these steps. About here, we start partnering with other organizations to carry our drugs forward. But I'm going to talk to you about some ways that you could be involved in making changes in all of this. And the number one thing is just learning. And that's part of what you're doing here today, right? So if you can attend events, webinars, look at research papers. And I've talked to scientists. I know research papers are hard to read for us. And even for most of them, it takes them 2 or 3 hours to get through a single paper in a lot of detail. But these things are really important. Attend scientific meetings. And if you want to know how to do that, I'm happy to talk to you about different ways. And we're going to go into one of them today. Ask questions, think critically, make a lot of noise on social media, right? This is really important. We all learn from these things. I'm really glad to have you guys here today to learn a little bit. The next thing you can do, participate in trials. Tell other people to participate in trials. I know that for trials, there's often a window that closes based on time from your first symptom. So I know everybody's not eligible, but this is the only way that we're going to get new drugs approved for ALS. So encourage people to participate in them, spread the word, and be a part of them. ALS TDI is developing a new tool that's going to help people find information on clinical trials. It's called ALS Trial Navigator. It's coming in January. So I'm just giving you the heads up on that. But this is one of the biggest ways that you can contribute to research. Participating in biomarker studies. So I have biomarker studies kind of across the whole spectrum of all of this. Why? Because if we can find something in somebody's blood that gives us clues about their ALS or that helps us match them with a better drug, it's going to change this entire process. So at ALS TDI, we have a study called ALS Research Collaborative. There's also a lot of other studies that are out there that might have different components that would lead to new biomarkers for ALS. But this is a key way to make everything go faster. If you guys remember, like I grew up in the 70s and 80s, I remember what a telephone looked like, and it was a rotary phone, and you'd have to dial. And now I think about how I'm carrying around a phone in my pocket that can do all kinds of things that have nothing to do with calling people. But that's because the technology has built on itself. And in any research for drugs, it also builds on itself. So the more we learn about the disease processes and the more specifics we understand about the disease, the better and better the research will get over time. So the more biomarkers we have, the faster this process will go, right? We might get a drug that we understand a little bit better because we have a biomarker. And the next drug that comes after that gets to build on that research. It all builds on itself. And so this is a critical way to make research go faster. So again, participate, spread the word, let people know. Engaging with scientists. So simply talking with scientists can do a lot, right? And we do this at ALS TDI. There's other organizations that do this too. Why would that be a benefit? Well, when you talk with a scientist, you're driving them to move with urgency. You may say something that might spark something in them to do differently in the work that they're doing. Learning from the scientists what their experiences are in a laboratory will help you understand research processes better, right? So this is something that's mutually beneficial to really everybody when we engage with scientists. You never know what you're going to say that might actually change how they do something. Another way to do this on the clinical research side is to participate in patient advisory boards. And I saw some of you guys coming into the waiting room who have been part of patient advisory boards, but this is a really impactful way to work with pharma companies and ALS organizations to help design trials that might be more friendly to the patient community. When a trial has a more patient-centric design, it helps the trials enroll faster. It helps the research processes go faster. It empowers us because we're able to talk with pharma companies and give them feedback on different things. And it might make the trial work better, right? Maybe they'll find something in your words that they can actually measure differently in their trial that might make their trial more successful. And so this is a great way to be involved with ALS research as well. Another thing that's going to make everything go faster is fundraising. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that today, but fundraising is one of the most critical pieces. And we have fun ways to do fundraising at ALS TDI, but really this is the thing that drives all drug discovery and drives drug development for any disease. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about is influencing grant funding. So there are grant programs around that you can be a part of, where you can influence where research dollars are going. You can also choose what organizations to fund, and that's you kind of funding your own grant. But there are official programs out there where you can be involved in deciding what research is getting funded and to incorporate your voice into that. And that's critical. So here on this slide now are so many different ideas that might help you be involved in advancing ALS research. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the programs that are out there on this slide, and Megan will drop into the chat some ways to get involved with some of these things. But the NEALS Research Ambassadors, this is a wonderful program started by Dr. Rick Bedlack several years ago, and I know we have some research ambassadors here attending today as well. But the Research Ambassadors program, we do them virtually, we do them in person, but basically it's a way to bring people together to learn from experts in clinical research about how drug development works. So you will spend 2 days learning how to read a research paper, learning about statistics, learning about ethics, learning about all kinds of things. You'll get to meet other people from the patient and caregiver community. You'll get to interact one-on-one with some of the big names in ALS research. And after this is all done, we have a monthly meeting where we bring on pharma companies and we bring on different organizations for you to get involved in different patient advisory boards. And so it's a really good program to be involved in if you want to directly give your feedback to different organizations and pharma companies about ALS research. For ALS TDI, one way that you could be involved is by participating in our ALS Research Collaborative study. So again, this is a study that's trying to help unlock ALS. There's lots and lots of different things that we could learn from this study. I always like to joke that this study is a real pain to participate in because we ask a lot of our participants. But at the same time, we are collecting really, really in-depth data on many, many different measures. So people are not just contributing their voice, but they're contributing their voice. We're measuring how you move. We're measuring thousands and thousands of proteins in your blood. We're doing full genome sequencing. So there's many different types of data being collected. And when you layer all of this together, you can understand much more about ALS in general, and especially when you incorporate genetics and then all this blood work into that as well. And we do at-home blood work, but this is a very powerful way to drive research ahead to help find new markers of ALS that could change many things. It could change how fast trials are going if we find a biomarker. It could help accelerate diagnosis. It could help find better drugs. And we do all of those things here. I mean, the ALS Research Collaborative has already done some of that for us here at ALS TDI. The Congressionally Directed Medical Research Program over here on the far right. This is a program funded by the U.S. Department of Defense. And they give $40 million a year that gets allocated to research grants for ALS. And these research grants are only for programs that are looking to advance a therapy into trials. There is now a mechanism through this program that will fund very early trials, so small trials. This is not designed to fund the big phase 3 trial, but they're looking to really help researchers advance therapeutics into the clinic. And there's a consumer reviewer program. So if that's something that you want to be a part of, definitely reach out to me. I know we have, I think Kevin Robinson is part of this webinar as well. And I'm sure he'd love it if you reached out to him and asked him questions about that. He's been involved in that before. But it's a great way to contribute to ALS research. And we're really lucky that this program exists. Another great way to get involved is through the Patient Fellows Program. So just last week, we had the MND Symposium. It was in Basel, Switzerland this year, and next year it's going to be in Montreal, Canada. And there's a wonderful program that's been put together to support people with ALS and caregivers to attend this meeting, either in person or virtually. And the wonderful thing about that is you can interact with researchers, you can talk with them, learn from them. In person is always a really incredible experience, but you can do this virtually as well. And then the goal is to have people who participate in this program come back and share with the community what some of their findings were. And also the goal is to have somebody on the ground there being the voice of our community and telling those researchers that, they need to be going as fast as possible, and also giving them ideas that might help change their research. And lastly here, I have a Facebook group called ALS Clinical Trials and Research. I founded and have been running this group for 4 years now, and we're at over 6,000 members. But this is a great place to interact, to learn about ALS research, but also to engage with other people in the community. I think that it's been a bit of an uphill battle. Social media has kind of a bad reputation all around, but you know what? It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And the truth is that whatever we hear from our neurologists, I know we all also look to each other for advice on what to do and to also learn about what is happening. And so it's a good source of information on research that's happening all around the world. I try to make it as global as possible. We have participation from many different countries, but would love to have you be a part of that. Would love you to share content from there and to be vocal and to ask questions. And you can now submit anonymous posts, which is really awesome because you don't even have to say who you are if you're shy. And I know a lot of people are scared to ask questions. So that's my talk on science-based advocacy, right? Make sure that you're reading, that you're learning information, that you're sharing that, participate, be a part of clinical trials, find ways to fund research, and then influence, right? Attend the scientific meetings, be a part of advisory boards, tell the scientists what you'd like them to do differently, let them learn from you, and also at the same time learn from them and understand how all of these processes work. So with that, I'm going to hand things over to Carol, and then I'm happy to stay and answer questions about this. Also I can talk about other things, but Carol's going to talk about some of the programs we have at ALS TDI. Many of the events that I've gotten to participate in over the last couple of years have been really, really fun, and not just about raising money for a very good cause, but about meeting people, about sharing our experiences, about learning from others. It's been a really incredible experience for me to be a part of this organization. So I'm really excited to hand things over to Carol here. So Carol, I'm going to stop screen sharing.
All right. Thank you, Nadia. Okay, and I'm going to start screen sharing. What do you think? We got it, you guys? You see Dr. Kyle Denton up there? All right, great. Welcome, everybody. My name is Carol Hamilton. I am the Vice President of Development at ALS TDI. I have been in the world of ALS for 18 years now. I am very lucky that I have lost not a member of my family to this disease. I came in only knowing 2 people who have lived through ALS, but now You guys are my whole life. You're actually funner than the rest of the people I know. So, a big part of my friend circle and people I consider my family are either living with this disease or are the family member or caregiver of someone with this disease or have lost somebody. So, I thank you for continuing to allow me a position in this community when I haven't earned it the hard way that most of you have. Because boy, I really like it here. So, some non-science ways that you can help move research forward, particularly at ALS TDI. Oh gosh, Nadia, this is what I think what happened the last time is we got them up and then we couldn't advance them. Hold on, let me try one more. Got it, got it, got it. Okay, so at ALS TDI, we have a number of signature events that people can take part in. The first one is the Tri-State Trek. It is a 2-day, for those of you who have been around for a while and knew Trek 1.0, this is Trek 2.0. So listen up because we've made it easier for you. You have fewer excuses not to participate now. Sorry, but we want you there. It is a 2-day event based out of the University of New Hampshire. So you ride, you come back to the same place. It's the same bed. You don't have to remake the bed, nothing. There are people out there on the course cheering you on. We just had a meeting about it. I guarantee there will be costumes. You will have the choice each day of riding either 30 or 100 miles. You have the choice of riding 30 miles one day and just hanging out or donning a costume the next day. You have the opportunity to join any of our our crew teams. You could be on the cheer squad. You could be on the registration squad. There are opportunities for everyone to participate in this event. It really is beautiful. It's kind of like riding through a postcard, be it on a bike or in a car. But most importantly, what you get at the end of the day, particularly on Saturday, is far more than me in shorts. I'm really sorry. But that picture down there in the lower left-hand quadrant is about what we call our open mic night. And it's where people who are there with us, which are by the hundreds, come up if they want to tell their story about who they're riding for or why they're riding or why they're there, or to dedicate their ride to the community in some way. And hearing each other's stories just creates a powerful camaraderie that also gives you the confidence to participate in some of the things that Nadia just went through, right? I get that sometimes some of those things can sound like, ooh, I don't know if I'm ready for that. But you know what? You come to the trek and there are going to be 300 people standing around you. You're going to feel like you deserve to be heard and to be part of every committee and to voice your opinions to researchers as much as you want. So come join us if you can. Oh, jeepers, sorry for the phone. Hold on. It's Lori Larson Heller, everybody, for anybody who knows Lori, who was registered for this and isn't on. That's the Tri-State Trek, the first of our signature events. Many of you have attended our leadership weekend, and we invite all of you to attend next year in early October. It is a full weekend of events where Thursday evening we invite everyone to an open house at the lab where you can walk through and get tours from Fernando or me or a scientist or another scientist or Nadia or whoever. There is cheap wine and grocery store crackers and cheese. We are a nonprofit, but the company beats it all. You get to ask every question, every hard question you want about ALS TDI. Come see the science happening. If you rode the trek and then you come to this, come see the dollars that you raised at work. Then the next day is the ALS TDI Summit. That is Fernando in a very regal posture in the upper left quadrant there, where hundreds of us will gather to recognize the progress that has been made in science and to celebrate being together. And then we will also usually have some good time in between all of that where oh, did I skip over the summit? I did. The summit, we will gather and you see a poster session there and you see a panel session there of some of our scientists. You will meet many of the ALS TDI scientists and scientists from all over the ALS research world, presenting their work, talking to you about how to get involved, answering your questions one-on-one. It's all of the stakeholders, right? It's people living with ALS, the people who love them. There are representatives from, for example, CDMRP, from the federal government who are, running research programs through various agencies. There are representatives from biotech and pharma companies and researchers across the globe. All of them are there to have a far better glass of wine with you if you'd like to have one at the close of the session when we do posters. And you can ask questions all you want. You're with them for the whole weekend. So come engage in a weekend of science and celebration and camaraderie if you're free, because we'd love to have you. And all of this, you guys, it's all fundraising, right? We have a great time. But the more people who come, the faster we get to go. Then we have other signature events. We have a walk for research in Boston. If you are local or if you have relatives who are somewhat local to Boston, please ask them to put a team together and join us. We do it's basically, I think, a 3.5-mile walk, a 3-mile walk. One of the things that's cool about it is we go back and trace the route of where TDI was founded. Nadia showed you that picture of the Haywood family in their basement. Well, we're going to go by that basement. So it's kind of a sentimental walk, really nice. There are programs like Rake for ALS. How about that? 2 young people who won awards at our leadership summit, our ALS TDI summit this year, started a program where they rake yards and raise money for ALS TDI. That raised $100,000. So if you know any kids who can get their hands on a rake and want to rake, right? We've raised a generation of kids who know landscapers and leaf blowers. Leaf blowers are okay too. But you know what? Your neighbors and their neighbors will be happy to support these children who are supporting the research that will help so many of the people in our community. If you know runners, marathoners, we have bibs to the New York City half marathon in March and the full marathon in November. Those events, like the trek, are fully supported. We make sure that you are taken care of. We help with training. We're there to cheer you on. We do a carb loading dinner the night before. You are not alone in running those miles. We will not run with you, but we will support you all the way through. Driving for Life is all of our golf programs. There are a lot of golf events that support research, not only at ALS TDI, but across a lot of the organizations out here in ALS land. You'll see one in the bottom corner on this slide that I think is pretty funny, the Braveheart Classic. I thought that logo was just great. So there are other ways that you can raise money depending on what your gang likes to do, right? Are you bowlers? Cool. Put together a bowling fundraiser. Do you like to drink on Halloween? Do booze and booze party to end ALS. We have polar plunges. We have parties. Katie, I think you're on here right now. Katie Rixman, I'm not sure, but we have people who are dancing away ALS. And that dancing happens with people with ALS in their wheelchairs too. So we have ways for everybody to help. These are fun. Yeah, they're fundraisers, but they're also us getting together. And while we're at every one of these events, we're talking about science and how to move it forward. So I hope you'll join us in some of these. Then there's social media. Nadia's right. It gets a bad rap, but you know what? It does a lot of great stuff. Facebook birthday fundraising alone, I tried to get the number, but right before we got on this Zoom, I'm not quite sure. Megan Lawler, if you know and you want to interrupt me, please feel free to unmute yourself. I'm not even sure how much it raises us annually, but a boatload of money. People want to give you a birthday present, and you probably, if you're anything like me, don't need anything. So do a Facebook birthday fundraiser. It doesn't cost you a cent. It's super easy. Facebook guides you through how to set it up, and that money can support research. Instagram now has really easy ways to fundraise. It will prompt you the whole way through it. And a lot of you joined us on Giving Tuesday just a few short weeks ago, as all of us stayed up into the wee hours of the morning, encouraging you all to help us. And a lot of people on this Zoom spent a good part of that day donating to everybody's fundraisers. And boy, do we appreciate it. That day now is responsible for, over $100,000 worth of research in one day. $100,000 is real money, and it's kind of fun. We get out there, we're on social media, we'll get on chat with you. We'll say, did anybody see this one? Did anybody see that one? So join us on Giving Tuesday, and also join us in telling your stories on Giving Tuesday. If you want to tell your story, I bet you have one. We'll help you do that to speed research. And stay informed. We have lots of ways for you to do that. We have blogs about research news. We have blogs about community members. We have podcasts about drugs that are coming forward and what things like p-values mean and who Lori Carey is and what she does. And how she rode, 400 miles for the Tri-State Trek with ALS. I'm a slouch. Come in and meet us. Come schedule a lab tour. We have people coming through the lab easily twice, 3 times a week, meeting the scientists, seeing it all happen. We'd love to have you. Attend the town halls. There's community conversations is one subset of them, but we have topical town halls too, and soon we'll be announcing for 2024 some of the topics that we intend to talk about there. Let us know what you want to talk about. These are for you. Sign up for our newsletters. We don't spam you. Megan's super careful of making sure you don't get too much email, but we do want to make sure you're informed. So sign up, register for the monthly newsletter, and then hit me up, hit this team up with any questions. If you work for ALS TDI, could you please wave your arms around? Chances are at least one of these people. We're all here to answer your questions about research or how you can help, or jeepers, whatever you want to know, we'll find somebody to answer the question for you. So thanks for letting me talk about this, Nadia, and thanks for understanding, everybody, that fundraising matters and is just one of the ways that you can engage in ALS research.
Thank you so much, Carol. And I at least on this community conversation series, we don't generally talk about ALS TDI events. We really want to keep it focused on, research topics and your questions. This fall, I had a very busy fall, and I had the chance to attend a lot of research meetings, and this is my second year at ALS TDI. I think I've really gotten the chance to understand the organization a little better and be a part of different events. So I think I did a social media rant about 6 weeks ago where there was a lot of, usually nobody cares about my rants, but this time many people reached out asking how they could do something for ALS research and how they could be involved. And so I wanted to make sure to get the word out to all of you on different things that you can do. And feel free to reach out to any of us to learn more about some of the programs that I shared or to learn more about the programs at ALS TDI. I want you to find your passion and what you want to do for ALS research, and it all moves us all forward, right? So I'm grateful to you, Carol, for your wonderful presentation, and to the ALS TDI team, and for all of you who want to make a difference. We need you. There's no easy solutions here. It's up to us to change this disease. And just like the Haywood family, decided that they were going to change the disease. And I know many of you personally, and I know that you're the same, that you want to make a difference. So let us know how we can help and support. But we are not screen sharing anymore. So you're welcome I'm going to start going through the chat. to address some of the comments and questions. We have some questions about ALS or comments about ALS Trial Navigator, that it will be helpful to get people matched with clinical trials. Yes, and so there's going to be 3 components to that tool. One is all about learning and at the same time entering your personal, where you're at in ALS to find trials that match with your criteria. We're also including expanded access programs. We're also going to include biomarker studies and observational studies that have looser requirements as far as participation goes, because it all moves research forward. So yeah, we had a comment about biomarker studies, that you don't need to have restrictions on diagnosis. So yes, that's part of the reason we're including it, but also because those biomarker studies, while they're not necessarily contributing to research on a single drug, they are actually going to be the thing that makes all of ALS research go faster. And let's see, we had a question about what is CDMRP. So I'm sorry if I didn't explain it. CDMRP is the Congressionally Directed Medical Research Program, and the Department of Defense funds research for a lot of different diseases, and ALS is one of them. And currently, we are receiving $40 million annually through that program to be allocated to research. So that's what CDMRP stands for. And then Kevin Robinson shared some of his information. If anybody has questions about CDMRP, he's been a great addition to that program. Let's see, what else are there? If there's any additional questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Roseanne is saying, thank you for all the work you do. It means so much to all of us who are living with ALS. We believe in you and are right here supporting you. And Roseanne, I'm really grateful to you. And yes, that's why we're here too, right? Many of us are part of the community. And Carol was speaking about how she doesn't have, family member who was directly involved. But you know what? Carol's been at this for a long time, and there's many easier jobs that she could be doing. It's definitely not easy on this side either. And so I'm grateful that she stays in the space. But yeah, we all get it. We need to put an end to this. Melissa is saying, it looks like the NEALS Research Ambassadors program is closed for the year. Will they reopen it next year? Are there any other programs where caregivers' immediate family members can get involved in a coordinated program to help, aside from fundraising? So yeah, the NEALS Research Ambassadors program, well, it's December, and we did get a lot of applications for that program. I'm involved in co-chairing the monthly meeting for that program. And there were a lot of applications this year. And so I know on the website, it says that things are closed out. If you have a strong interest in being involved in that program, shoot me an email. Here, I'm going to drop my email in the chat. And if you are very driven to be part of any of these programs, I will try to figure out a way to make it happen. So I know that we have some virtual classes coming up next year, early in the year. And so if it's something that you really want to be a part of, yeah, I'm seeing your chat, Melissa. Yeah, just shoot me an email, and I will try to figure out how to get you or your family members involved in that. Jose, who I met on social media, is saying, thank you so much for what you guys do. Thank you for your support and keeping us informed of developments and info releases. Thank you, Jose. I know, Jose, I think your wife ran in the New York Marathon for ALS, and thank you so much for doing that. It's really amazing. I can't run around the block, let alone run a marathon. So that's why I'm on social media screaming about ALS all the time. But thank you for all that you've done. And I'm really grateful. My family still has skin in the game, right? We have genetic ALS, I have 2 kids. And so to me, this is a very personal thing. So thank you for the kind words. Any questions about anything else? Any questions about ALS research or any of the things that I shared, the research processes, new trial readouts, any of that? Everyone's going to be quiet today. Kevin, you always have something to say.
Nadia, can I just say one of the dilemmas that I see when it comes to dollars being raised for ALS, while I understand the need for so much of that fundraising money to go into research. As someone who uh, has been through this journey many years ago, what stood out to me was the comfort, care, love, compassion that my family received from the ALS Center here that helped with my dad's journey. And sometimes I feel like the hard work that these ALS centers perform, and I know my center does everything for free. The loan closet, the physical therapy, the case managers, all those services are done for free, but they have to be covered by somebody. And that's where our fundraising comes in. And so I just would like to relay the message that if you're someone who donates to this disease, and I'm sure you all do, don't forget the ALS centers that are providing all that compassionate care for the patients while they're going through their journeys.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think you're right, Scott. There's so many different roles, right, that have to be played in this world. And well, I think a lot of what comes from TDI is genuine compassion and understanding we're not out there on the ground with loan closets and the opportunity to help in that way. So you're right. Thank you.
Absolutely. I think there's many, and that's why I prefaced the conversation with, it's really about what your passion is as well, right? For me, it was always like, all I wanted was treatments for ALS. And that's definitely not the only way to be involved in helping everybody with ALS and advocating for ALS. And you bring up a really important point. Our care matters so much. And yeah. So thank you for sharing that. We have a few comments and I see your hand up, Paul. I'm going to get to you in just a minute because I think some of these comments came in first. Will your trial matching program include global trials or just trials in the US? Oh no, we are trying to be very comprehensive. And this weekend I was immersed in Japan because wow, there's a lot of research going on over there that I had no idea about. And you know what? It's not listed on clinicaltrials.gov. So yeah, we are trying to find every global trial that we can to put information about that into this tool. So yeah, it will be global. And it will not include just drug trials. Again, it'll include biomarker studies. And then we're also separating out a third category of symptomatic treatments. So there are treatments in trial that are designed to modify ALS, right, to change the disease course. There's observational studies that might help find new markers for ALS. And then there's also trials for symptomatic things, and that could be breathing involvement. It could be mental health. It could be exercise. It could be lots of other things that may have benefits in ALS, but aren't directly modifying the disease. So things are going to be split into those three categories. Lee is asking about ALS for ALS. Carol, if you want to chat about that a little bit.
Sure. Thanks for asking, Lee. So many of you may have seen, I love that, Roseanne, you're smiling right now. It makes me happy. I can see you out of the corner of my eye. Many of you have probably seen on social media, and if you haven't, please follow ALS for ALS on Facebook and Instagram, that we are doing something kind of cool right now. We are doing the ALS for ALS road trip. And our national director, Mike Shannon, and his wife, Jan, and their two dogs are in a giant RV, and they are driving the country, meeting brewers and meeting community members and advancing this program. So for those who don't know what ALS for ALS is, this speaks again to somebody thinking what they could bring to the game and how to turn it into something that accelerates research. And there is a family with genetic ALS in the Pacific Northwest who have a business in hops growing. And so basically they are bringing hops to the floor. And we have a program where brewers across the world, not just the United States, can sign up to be part of Ales for ALS. They will be shipped a proprietary blend of really great hops with which they will brew a beer, and $1 per pint of that beer will come back to support the research at the labs at ALS TDI. The program raises over $750,000 a year by drinking beer for TDI. What we're doing now is we're making sure that that brewers that we haven't met yet know about this program and have the opportunity to participate in it. And we'll buy you a beer. If Mike's in your hood, he'll come and he'll buy you a beer and introduce you to your local brewers. And please introduce us to the local brewers that you know, because you never know, you might get a beer named after yourself. It's happened a number of times this year. So, yeah, tough duty, right? Supporting research by drinking a beer with your name on the label. It'd be pretty cool. Kevin Garrity wants to know if the Ales for ALS RV is handicapped accessible. I don't even think it's able accessible, Kevin. Looks pretty hard to climb in and out of, as far as I can tell. But it's pretty cool. And follow on social media. Go into your local breweries, introduce yourselves, and list them in the program. We have documents that will be up on social media telling you how to do that. If you just get an email address of somebody at your local brewery, we'll take care of it and invite them into the program. And look for the van near you. He's doing the South right now, and then we'll go back to Washington State and doing some. Right now, he'll probably go up to the Carolinas, back down to the Panhandle and back. And then once the weather settles again in the spring, come out to see many of us in the Northeast. Thanks for asking, Lee.
All right, and there was a couple of other questions that are getting answered in chat. Paul, I want to make sure that we get to you. So if you'd like to unmute, please feel free.
All right. Thank you. So I'm a carrier of C9. So all my kids are at risk of having this. I've been in DC for 36 years as a policy person and spent 25 years lobbying the disability community. And then I came down with this. So what did I do? I joined a bunch of ledge teams for a bunch of ALS groups because my goal now is to kill this disease, not for me, but for my kids, because they're not going through this. This is the end of it right here. Now, you guys are on the cutting edge, on the sharp end of the stick, doing research. And I appreciate every minute you guys spend doing it and every dime you raise to do it. But the federal government has got to get in this game in a far more serious way than it is right now. So when you get an action alert from your organization about spending money for ALS research, respond to it because it's important. I mean, we're just not cutting the mustard down here in Washington or over here in Washington, depending on where you are. It's just not, we're just not pulling the weight. And we need to get far more investment in research across the board, whether it's at NIH or the CDMRP or everywhere. $40 million. Oh, geez. Well, you know, Elon Musk burns that lighting his cigars. I mean, give me a break. So that's my mission, is to push for more research funding for the federal government. And any of it that you guys can get latched onto, you know, that's what we're about. So wish you guys all the best. And you know, like I said, everybody else out there, when you get those alerts from your organizations, no matter which one it is, about increasing funding, please respond. Congress will act. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Paul. I think you make really good points. And just a few years ago, when I got involved with CDMRP, it was 10 million, and before that, it was less than that. And I feel really fortunate that we have $40 million, but it's still, it's yes, it could be more. And that's just one place, right? And same with NIH. I think because of strong advocacy in the last few years, there's a lot happening nationally with NIH, with the FDA. There's a lot of concerted efforts to move ALS research ahead. But yeah, funding is one of the biggest roadblocks nationally as well. You're absolutely right. So thank you so much for that comment and for sharing your story about your family as well. I'm with you. I kept saying that I'm not doing ALS again in my house. I hear you. And that's the goal. ALSA National Lobby Day. Scott, did that stop because of COVID? Do you know?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
They were extremely fearful. Well, one of the things that you'll notice with ALSA Lobby Day is there are a lot of patients that are roaming the halls, and I just believe that ALSA was fearful that the patients would catch COVID, and with compromised immune systems, it's very understandable. However, 2021, maybe even 22, I could see that being a factor, but we should have had it in 2023 back to being in person. ALSA Lobby Day since COVID has been virtual. And one of the problems that I see anyway with the virtual Lobby Day, they limited the visits to strictly patients, and I'm assuming ALSA executives. Any of us that had been going to ALSA Lobby Day that do not have ALS were not invited to be able to sit in on those legislative visits. That to me is what made it less effective, because there were fewer voices that were able to speak on behalf of ALS. One of the things I've been trying to push for is for us to get back to being in DC in person. It's so much more impactful when that patient and the other advocates are in front of the legislator or staff members' faces. There's no way around it. When I do the Gillibrand visit for New York, there are usually 25 to 30 people there, and the front row is 6 or 7 patients using eye gaze. I don't know if that type of impact is felt when it's virtually done. But boy, when you're there and you see all these patients with their eye gazes, the Schumer visit was amazing. There had to be 50 people there for that visit. It means so much more when you're in front of that legislator or a staff member. And the one thing I will say about ALS, it's nonpartisan. Both Republicans and Democrats are feeling the effects of ALS. So the more we're out there advocating, the more we're going to get things done. And I've been doing advocacy for a long, long time with another disease, and my time with ALS has been the last 10 years. And there have been more changes made with legislation in the last 5, 6 years than I'm sure they've seen in 30 years. So it's out there. People know about ALS now. And I want to see us back in DC. We got to be in front of these legislators if we want to. And I agree with Paul. $40 million is a kick in the bucket. It's a kick in the bucket. We should be able to get far more dollars for ALS research than 40 million. I think the overall ALS appropriations amounted to maybe 100 million, which again is just, it's so minimal when you think of how much money we could be bringing in. So
Scott, I totally agree with you, Scott. And I'm on the policy committee for ALSA. And trust me, in 2024, we're in DC. I'll tell you right now, that will not happen again. Not on my watch. Because if you're not there, then you're what's for dinner, as I like to say. So, yeah, that ain't happening again. The other thing, too, is they have these walks for ALS, walks to beat ALS, also does. So when they do the one in DC? On a Saturday. No way. It's going to be on a Wednesday, and it's going to be around the Capitol. So, you know what? We got to get smarter. We got to get meaner, and we got to get more aggressive. Okay? Everybody else is. Okay? I mean, the AIDS group didn't get their livable 3-drug cocktail by being nice. They got it by being aggravating, and we need to be a lot more aggravating. Okay? So,
and
anyway.
I'm not sorry about that either, Paul.
All right, Scott. I love
We
you,
did
baby.
die-ins out in front of the White House. We chained ourselves, to cabinet members' offices. We did a lot of stuff like that. And we now have life-saving meds. And that's what it takes.
You burned Fauci in effigy. ACT UP did. I remember that. Before it was cool. I mean, before he was on board. But yeah, that's how you do it. Okay? So, as a friend of mine in the disability community once said, nobody in Congress fears anything more than the sight of rolling metal. Okay? All those chairs coming at you is one intimidating sight. So let's go roll.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Scott. I hear you. And I think I hear the HIV analogies come up very often, and ACT UP was an incredible organization. And I know advocates that have worked with people who were involved in those movements. And Scott, I know you have a connection as well. And it did a lot, and that funding makes a big difference. But they also had some luck and some science on their side too. And so I'm grateful for all that you're doing to push for more funding for ALS research on a national level.
If I may just add one more thing, think about the fight around the Affordable Care Act and what was being plastered all over news stations were those wheelchairs in the hallways during that whole fight over getting that Affordable Care Act reauthorized. So that's how strong advocacy can be, because that was a really, really tough issue. And that's the one thing I'll always remember are the numbers of people in the hallways and confronting congressional members in their elevators. It just was a strong, strong statement.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, well, I'm going to give you guys a minute. If anyone else has questions related to research, please feel free to put them in chat, but we're at the hour. I'm happy to stay on if there's specific questions. I'm just gonna give it a minute. I'm hoping everybody's holidays are good, and that you have a great New Year's Eve. And since there's no additional questions that seem to be coming in, feel free to reach out by email if anything comes to mind at 2 a.m., which is usually when it happens to me. And thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody. Bye, guys. Great to see so many people.
Lee, your hand is up. Oh,
Oh, so's Jose's. Oh, it's down.
Jose was.
And, hey, oh, you were waving. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Did we lose Lee? Yeah, I think Lee left. Maybe that was a mistake. Okay.
Think he was waving too. I saw a little emoji with the hand on the side.
Cool. All right, signing off. Thank you, everybody.
Great. Thanks all.